Hey Tyler, have you ever wanted to make your own podcast?
Absolutely I have.
Well, if you want to make your podcast, you should go to Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Here's why. For one, it's free to use, no monthly fees. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so you don't need any of that special equipment. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
If Jeff and I can make a podcast using Anchor, literally anybody can.
So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
The following podcast is a member of the Pokecasters Network. Pokecasters Network, supporting Pokemon content creators, their shows, and the community of Pokemon fans. To find out more, check out PokecastersNetwork.com or find us on Twitter and Facebook.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Pokemon Snapshot. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too terrible, I guess.
Yeah, and we are excited to do another podcast with you guys. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Remember that we are part of the Pokecasters Network, so please look them up. Look at some wonderful podcasts that they do on that network. Also remember to follow us on Twitter, and if you want a tweet read on the show, you can tweet us at Pokemon Snapshot. In fact, we have a new tweet that William Walton just sent us this week. And he said, at Pokemon Snapshot, surely Team Rocket should be on the wall of shame for pretty much everything they do. So what do you think about that, Tyler?
I mean, it seems like an obvious thing that we need to do. They should be on the wall of shame. They should have been top of the wall of shame. Except for maybe for the abusive guy. He should be top of the wall of shame.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I did not talk about putting Team Rocket on the wall of shame because we expected of them. And they really haven't done anything that horrible. They failed at every instance.
Jeff, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that because they are constantly trying to, kidnap and rob and do all sorts of really bad stuff. I feel like the intention is there. They're just really dumb.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but if you look at our other people, we have Ash at the top of it, which I put him on there because he does some pretty horrible things for being the protagonist, good guy of the episodes.
That's true, but he is also pretty incompetent at pretty much everything he does as well. So I agree. I think we need Team Rocket on there. You're wrong on this one, Jeff.
Maybe I'll put a poll out on our Twitter channel asking people if they think Team Rocket should join the Wall of Shame, and then we'll let the people decide.
Sounds good to me. I already know what they're going to say, though.
Alright, and William Walton also said, given Pikachu generates thousands of volts of electricity, how are the trio not dead? Does this mean Pokemon attacks can't kill you, only mildly hurt you?
That's a valid point. I have always thought that if one of them had a heart condition they didn't know about, they would long be dead. But yeah, definitely the amount of electrical output that Pikachu has, they should be dead. In fact, they would have died at least once during today's episode as well.
Yeah, and we will get to that in a little bit later. So if you want to hear us read your tweet on the podcast, you can tweet us like William Walton did, or you can email us at thepokemonsnapshot@gmail.com. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please give us a review and help other Pokemon fans like yourselves so they can listen to the podcast. All right, Tyler, are we ready to get into the episode?
I'm ready to rock and roll, Jeff.
All right, so our episode today, episode 12, is Here Comes the Squirtle Squad. And in Japanese, it was called Enter the Zenigame Squad. It aired on June 17th, 1997 in Japan, and on September 23rd, 1998 in the United States.
We begin our episode with the narrator reminding us about how Ash has recently gotten a Bulbasaur and a Charmander. He gained some new friends, the narrator says. Ash is pleased with himself and is skipping down the road with Misty, Brock, and Pikachu following behind. The narrator wonders if he has gotten too confident about his recent success. My guess to that is going to be yes. Ash has gotten too confident. Excited to see how this plays out for him.
Yeah, and I like that they have Ash singing along to the theme song as they walk down the road. I mean, that just goes with his cockiness. But if I'm not mistaken, that is the main theme from Pokemon Red and Blue he is singing.
It is. It absolutely is. I actually noticed that as I was watching the episode. I was like, that's the song. Just then, Ash and the party fall into a giant hole. That seems to be a running trend in the last few episodes. Lots of people falling into holes. Misty exclaims, "Not another hole," and Brock thinks that it is a prank.
Yeah, and as you just alluded to, you think they would know to look for those by now, especially with how many they have fallen into?
However, on a related note to that, they are often hidden, and this one was exceptionally well hidden. If you watch the scene, there was no indication that it was there. And I don't go about my daily life thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall into a hole. And I have fallen into holes before, both figuratively and literally. Just then, a group of Squirtles wearing sunglasses looks over the hole and begin laughing at them. So we've seen some Squirtles show up, and they're wearing sunglasses. Ash says that this is not a funny prank because they could have been hurt, and then immediately pulls out the Pokédex. The Pokédex explains that Squirtle draws its long neck into its shell to launch incredible water attacks with amazing range and accuracy. Or I'm sorry, I think it said, did it say amazing rage or amazing range?
I don't remember, but they both make sense.
Yeah, either one of them works, and that these attacks can be quite powerful.
And when the Squirtles show up, Brock says, "Who are you?" Obviously, Brock does not know as much about Pokemon as he thinks he does. Squirtle, it's a Pokemon that everyone should know. How is he like, "Who are you? I've never seen this in my life."
Yeah, it is one of the main starters. Plus, didn't he battle some of the other people from Ash's hometown, before he encountered Ash, which would then make you believe that he did encounter a Squirtle?
Yeah, and we will learn later, way later, that Gary was the one who got the Squirtle. And obviously, Gary got there before Ash did.
Yes, that's very true. So, Brock definitely dropped the ball on this one. Ash gets all excited after hearing about what Squirtle is capable of and claims that with a Squirtle, Gary will never be able to beat him. Little does he know.
Yep.
He immediately sends Pikachu in, and Pikachu attempts to shock who I assume is the leader Squirtle because his sunglasses are shaped differently. So, the Squirtles have their sunglasses on, and they all have the round sunglasses except for one who appears to be the leader. And the leader's sunglasses are like those, sport shades that you often see dudes who are prone to yelling at their wives in public wearing. You know the type of guy I'm talking about.
Yeah, and all the other Squirtle, they have, aviator glasses on.
Yeah, they almost look like those, stereotypical, I'm blind and I'm wearing glasses type of sunglasses, but, they're round and Squirtles are definitely like Oakleys or something. However, another Squirtle, so as Pikachu jumps in to shock the head Squirtle who has these special sunglasses on, another Squirtle actually jumps in, probably one of the peons because they're wearing the round sunglasses, and jumps in front of the blast and gets knocked out. This angers the lead Squirtle, and he and Pikachu begin an intense stare-down. But the lead Squirtle then turns to his group, says Squirtle a bunch of times, and they take off. Pikachu looks back at Ash confused. I am also confused, Pikachu. I have no idea what just happened.
Yeah, and this is why I think Ash is so bad at catching Pokemon. That Squirtle was just laying on the ground. Come on, Ash, throw a Pokeball or something. That's all you need to do, and you would have had a Squirtle then and there.
It's true, and we could have avoided all the rest of the madness that happens later on in this episode.
I don't know if you would have avoided it, though. If you caught one of them, I think the other Squirtles would still be pretty angry.
That is true. I think it would have changed the plot then, but probably not what other things happened. Just then, Officer Jenny pulls up on a motorcycle and asks if Ash and his group are okay. Ash says, "Oh, hi, Officer Jenny, remember me?" And this Officer Jenny gets confused before explaining to them that they must have met one of her cousins before. Apparently, they all look identical, are all police officers, and are all named Jenny. And again, I wonder, I feel like this came up in another episode, I wonder, why do all of these cousins look identical? I'm not sure what is going on with this, but it is a little concerning as genetically they should not look similar. Are they breeding these cousins in some sort of cult type of thing, or is this a cloning thing? I don't know, but there's something weird going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, the last time we mentioned that, it was her sister-in-law, which made even less sense because it wasn't even blood-related.
Right. But still, cousins being identical, it's a little odd.
Yeah, and I think maybe they're all androids. So they're not born, they're built. This would also explain why there is only ever one Nurse Joy in each Pokemon Center. She doesn't need to sleep. She's not a real human.
I mean, I guess that's true, but didn't the last episode the one was probably sleeping when Pikachu escaped?
Maybe she had to recharge,
Yeah, very possible.
Hasn't Ash already been told about the Officer Jenny's looking the same? Or was he just not listening?
I don't remember. There's been a few different scenes where they're like, oh my gosh, this person looks the same as the other one type of thing, and I can't keep it straight. It's happened a few times already. Ash, completely not seeing how odd this entire situation is, says, talk about family resemblance, and Misty says, at least they remember all of their names. Holy cow, and this particular moment, I just want to point out that when Misty says when Misty says this comment, that at least they remember all their names, she seems uncomfortable and has a sweat bead running down her face. I'm going to assume that she did the mental math on this, gets disturbed, and decides she don't have time to deal with this today. Like, I think she caught on. She's like, all of these cousins look identical? This is weird. I'm uncomfortable. And that's kind of it of that. The party goes to the police station with Officer Jenny, and she explains that these Squirtles they encountered are in a gang called the Squirtle Squad. Misty says she has never heard of a Pokemon gang before, and Jenny explains that they are all Squirtles who have been abandoned by their trainers, and now they run amok around town playing tricks and causing problems. We see a montage of the Squirtle Squad spray painting buildings, stealing produce, in general causing mayhem and all that bad stuff. Officer Jenny explains that it is sad because if they had someone to care about them, they wouldn't have turned out the way that they did. And I want to say that this is kind of a sad resemblance to troubled youth in the real world. I was not prepared for this level of societal commentary in an episode featuring small turtles wearing sunglasses, Jeff.
Yeah, and in the Japanese original, this scene is Officer Jenny talking about how the Squirtle were all abandoned, and then Ash just goes, oh, not again. Obviously referencing the Charmander he caught in the previous episode.
Right, it's kind of a recycled plot point. We then flash to Team Rocket, watching Ash and the party through binoculars as they are leaving the police station. They are discussing how Pikachu is with them, as if he would be anywhere else. So they're like, oh, Pikachu's with them. Well, no, where else is Pikachu going to be at this point? And Meowth chimes in and says that he is hungry and wonders if there is a restaurant nearby. James then says he doesn't want pizza because he is sick of pizza every meal, and they begin to argue. Jesse hits him with a paddle fan, a paddle fan type sort of thing, like one of those, huge fans, which he deserves because whoever gets sick of pizza, if you get sick of eating too much pizza, just order another type of pizza. There's lots of types of pizza. You can change up the flavor and eat pizza multiple times per week like I do.
Yeah, I would never get sick of pizza. It's one of my favorite foods.
That's because you're not a crazy person, Jeff. I mean, you are a little crazy, but not in your taste in food. Jessie doesn't want them to ruin the plan, so she's angry that they're arguing about food and wanting to get food when they've got Pikachu in their sights. But James suggests Chinese food, and Meowth suggests tacos. So they both chime in, and James is like, I want Chinese food, and Meowth's like, I want tacos.
I do want to say those are both very good options as well.
They are. I mean, all three options have been very good, but Jessie's not having it. So she starts to chew them out for a little bit about how they're ruining the plan and yada, yada, yada. But then her stomach growls and she relents and says she's hungry too. So she pulls out a picnic basket and James and Meowth get very excited. But they then turn around to see the Squirtle Squad standing behind them ominously. Meowth explains that they are being robbed of their lunch. Squirtle says, give us your lunch or else. Jessie says, we'll show these little creeps, and she takes a step forward only to fall into a hole. So we have another hole, and Team Rocket has fallen into it again. The Squirtle Squad then ties them to a tree and begins to eat their food in front of them as James cries, and Jessie says that they aren't Squirtles, they are Piggles. Get it like a pig. Oh, God.
Yeah, and in the dub, they mentioned that they are eating donuts and eclairs, while in the Japanese original, it is rice balls and sandwiches. And I just find it interesting that they have to change the foods that Americanize them because maybe we just won't understand, I guess, as Americans.
I guess so, but I definitely think, maybe it wasn't this way in the late 90s, but rice balls and sandwiches is not that uncommon of a meal.
No, and they will call rice balls donuts multiple times, and I'm sure I'll reference it each time, but they do it multiple times, at least during the first season.
Also, what the heck is an eclair?
It's a type of donut, and don't get me wrong, any donut professional out there, I guess we call them bakers.
Don't diss on their profession. They keep the world going round.
Oh, you're as punny as they are today.
I know, right?
But aren't they just the big donuts that have the fillings on the inside?
Actually, come to think of it, I think you're right.
I think we call them Long Johns, but...
Yes, we call them Long Johns in Iowa.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think that's the other regional way of saying it, so that's interesting.
Yeah, we're used to Iowa where we would go and get a Long John from Casey's.
Yes, Long Johns from Casey's.
I miss Casey's.
And I'm in Nebraska, and I have a Casey's very close to my house. It's 5 minutes away. It's very dangerous.
I'm really jealous, but it's probably good that I don't have one. The closest one is on the other side of the state.
Yeah, my proximity to Casey's and fear of workout equipment has not helped me as I've reached middle age, Jeff. Well, after they are sitting there watching the Squirtle Squad eating their food, James says that they have to do something, and just then Jessie gets an idea, an actually good idea. And she asks the Squirtle Squad to help them steal Ash's Pikachu, and says that her boss will make it worth their while. But the lead Squirtle says forget it because humans can't be trusted. Meowth explains to them that the humans belong to him, and that they are his pets. Meowth calls James a bad human and begins kicking him as they're still both tied up to this tree. This pleases the lead Squirtle, and they lower Meowth. Meowth begins eating with them, and it appears that they have struck a deal.
I really enjoyed this scene and thought it was very funny. Meowth making James and Jessie his pets was hilarious.
Yes, this was a very entertaining scene. Overall, this is an entertaining episode in general, but yes, that was a good one. We then flash back to Ash and the party sitting along a riverbank relaxing while Misty fishes. Just then, a Squirtle pops out of the water and spits water on them, which, by the way, that's really gross and uncalled for. I had a brother that used to do that, just when you be at the swimming pool, you suck water, he's about to spit it on you.
Oh, I'm pretty sure my brother used to do the same. It is one of my least favorite things, especially, I can imagine you're a germaphobe, having someone spit water at you.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting. I cringed when Squirtle did that. Pikachu, after seeing what the Squirtle has done, jumps down and attempts to shock the Squirtle, but instead shocks the entire party. With, was it 10,000 amps of electricity?
1,000 volts according to William Walton.
1,000 volts.
I'm sure if I looked, we might know exactly, but I don't have Pikachu's information up right now.
Right. Well, regardless, they get shocked with a whole bunch of electricity, and they fall onto the ground and are almost knocked out. And Brock says, "Wet clothes conduct electricity," as he's writhing in pain. The Squirtle then begins to laugh. The Squirtle begins to laugh and shoots out of the water. Ash says that he has had enough of its pranks and sends Pikachu in to fight it, but the Squirtle goes into its shell and spins at Pikachu, knocking him into the water. Just then, Goldeen shows up in the water, and Misty warns Pikachu to watch out for its horn. Ash tells Pikachu to swim for sure, and he tries, but is too slow. Swim for shore. Man, I typed that wrong. So Ash tells Pikachu to swim for shore as he's in the water and this Goldeen's coming at him. He's too slow, and the Goldeen knocks Pikachu out of the water and onto shore. Pikachu is very badly injured and is knocked out.
I don't know why Ash didn't have Pikachu shock him at this time. I mean, this would have been the perfect time to shock the Goldeen. They were in the water, and that water would have just conducted everything, and the Squirtle as well.
Yeah, it would have ended the entire problem if Ash would have made an uncharacteristically good decision. Before the party can react, the rest of the Squirtle Squad shows up behind them and literally lassos them like cowboys. They have been captured. Meowth walks out of the woods with his new gang, and they all begin to laugh.
And then it fades away, and we go into our Who's That Pokemon segment.
Who's That Pokemon?
Alright, so the Who's That Pokemon for this week is Shocker, Squirtle.
I'm shocked.
And in Japanese, he is known as Zenigame. Squirtle's basic information, he is number 7 in the Pokedex. He's a water type. He's 1 foot 8 inches tall and weighs 19.8 pounds. and he is known as the tiny turtle Pokemon. Though 1 foot 8 inches, that does not seem very tiny.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of small compared to other Pokemon, I guess.
I guess, but not if you compare them to turtles.
That's true.
And then he evolves into Wartortle at level 16. Alright, Squirtle's name origin. Squirtle is a combination of squirt, like to spray, and small child, and turtle. Very obvious there. His Japanese name origin. Zenigame is a combination of Zeni, which means money, and Kame, which means tortoise or turtle. It literally means baby pond turtle. According to Pokemon Black and White's television program, PokeQuiz, Zene is an old-fashioned word for money. Squirtle shells looks like old coins, so that's how they got their name. Squirtle's design is based on both its final evolved form and baby turtles, though its anatomy and semi-aquatic lifestyles are much more similar to terrapins. Much like Wartortle, its tail is a reference to Japanese legends of the Minogame, a turtle which lived for 10,000 years and grew a tail made of seaweed. Squirtle's biology. Squirtle is a small Pokemon that resembles a light blue turtle. While it typically walks on its 2 short legs, it has been shown to run on all 4s in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. It has large purplish or reddish eyes and a slightly hooked upper lip. Each of its hands and feet have 3 pointed digits. The end of the long tail curls inward. Its body is encased by a tough shell that forms and hardens after birth. The shell is brown on the top, pale yellow on the bottom, and has a thick white ridge between the 2 halves. Alright, some Pokedex information from Squirtle. Pokemon Red and Blue states, after birth, its back swells and hardens into a shell, powerfully sprays foam from its mouth. Pokemon Gold Pokedex entry says, the shell is soft when it is born. It soon becomes so resilient, prodding fingers will bounce off of it. And then Ruby and Sapphire say that Squirtle's shell is not merely used for protection. The shell's rounded shape and the grooves on its surface help minimize resistance in water, enabling this Pokemon to swim at high speeds. And then a little bit of trivia for Squirtle. As with the other starters and Pikachu, Niue released a $1 coin featuring Squirtle as part of its commemorative promotion for the Pokemon franchise, with Squirtle on one side and the nation's coat of arms on the other. You know, after talking to these, I would love to collect these coins. I think it would be cool.
I was actually thinking that the last episode when you were talking about that again, I was like, man, I should check eBay and see what these bad boys are going for.
Yeah, I assume they're way more expensive than what I want to pay for them.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I would love to look it up. And then I thought this was interesting. As a species, Squirtle has been trained the most frequently out of all the Kanto starter Pokemon by major anime trainers. So, going through the many years, it has been trained by Ash, May, Gary, and Tierno, each owning one. So, those are 4 main characters that 2 of them we know, 2 will meet way, way down the line. But it has been owned more than any other Kanto starter. And that is our Who's That Pokemon segment.
Who's that Pokemon?
And while we're on the subject of Squirtle, I just want to throw out there that back in the day, during the original era of Pokemon, I had a Gen 1 Blastoise, the final evolution of Squirtle that was holographic. You know, it was the, like, first edition of the card, which I don't know how much that card would be worth today, but I was so excited when I unpacked this card that because I was convinced that the neighbor kid who is a huge Blastoise fan was finally going to trade me his prized first edition holographic Charizard, and he wouldn't do it. So I was stuck with that Blastoise for a very long time, and I didn't care about it, and I'm pretty sure later on I traded it for some Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I was an idiot.
If only you would have got that Charizard.
I did end up later on getting a Charizard from other means. I think I traded someone else for something else, but like that was like my victory day. I unwrapped this holographic Blastoise. I was like, yes, this is the card I needed. Finally, that will convince that loser neighbor kid to trade me his holographic Charizard, and he still wouldn't do it because he already had a couple of them. I hate that kid. He's a police officer now, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Not that that's a really relevant point. I just think it's kind of ironic. But yeah, we all were just rocking these, like, you know, first edition holographic Pokemon cards that are worth like thousands of dollars today. I just think it's kind of funny thinking about it.
Here's the thing, though. They have not gained as much, value as people think they have. You have to have, like, mint condition, no rough edges for it to be worth anything. And we were all kids. Somewhere in my house, I have my box of Pokemon cards. And they, none of them would take any value because I played with them as a kid. They are all worn away.
See, now, as you know about me, Jeff, I'm a clean freak, and that goes with, like, germs and everything. Like, I keep a very tidy house. I keep all of my stuff in, like, really great condition. As soon as I was getting these cards, I was throwing every single one of them in card sleeves. I was careful when I shuffled them. Like, they were actually in really good shape for being in the possession of a 10-year-old in the late 90s. So, I don't know. They probably wouldn't have been, like, the super duper fresh out of the pack mint condition valuable, but they would have been all right. Well, now that the Who's That Pokemon is there and my little tangent about my dreaded Blastoise holographic card that I had, we could jump back into the episode, and as a quick reminder, Meowth and the Squirtle squad have captured with lassos Ash and his party. We change scenes and now see Ash and the party tied up to a rock in the cave while Pikachu appears to be trapped in some sort of hamster cage, which is ironic considering he's like a rodent Pokemon. Meowth explains he is the Pokemon in charge and he can't wait for his human pets to get back. Meowth mocks Ash and Ash bites his tail. I wonder why the lead Squirtle has just decided, though, to, like, allow Meowth to just take over his gang. Shouldn't there be some sort of, like, battle to see who's in charge? I guess I don't know how that works, though, since I'm not really into the whole, like, gang activity thing in my own life.
So, my guess is that the Squirtle respects Meowth because he was able to train some humans to follow him and do his bidding.
You know what? I'm going to go with that. I'm going to call that the official explanation. I like that. Ash tries to explain that the Squirtles have been tricked, and that Meowth doesn't own the humans, but Meowth scratches him to shut him up, basically. Brock then notices Pikachu is in bad shape and says that Pikachu needs a super potion before it's too late. He explains that they can probably get one in town. Ash begs the Squirtle squad to let him go, so he can head into town and get the super potion. The lead Squirtle refuses. He believes that they are just trying to get away. Ash begins to literally cry, and this seems to touch the heart of the lead Squirtle. He kind of like looks at Pikachu struggling in the cage and then agrees to let Ash go. I'm assuming because he saw some compassion and was like, this resonates with me. But he says that Ash must be back by noon the next day or Misty will get her hair dyed purple. This, of course, upsets Misty. Ash promises he will be back and leaves running out of the cave. Meowth thinks to himself that even if Ash is back on time, they will all be long gone. I guess Meowth doesn't mind delivering a dead Pikachu to his boss or something. So, like, he's like, oh yeah, by the time they get back, we're going to be long gone. Are you going to help Pikachu, though, Meowth? I'm pretty sure Pikachu's not going to be very useful to your boss if he's dead.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess Meowth just didn't care, or he just didn't think that through. But this whole scene had a couple of changes when they dubbed the episode. At first, Ash told the Squirtle that he needs to go and get it because Pikachu will die. In the dubbed version, he just says Pikachu or Pikachu will be in big trouble. They actually allude to Pikachu dying in the Japanese original. And then also in the original, they didn't threaten to dye Misty's hair purple. They said that if he was not back by noon, they would execute her.
Holy cow!
So can you see why she showed being that upset?
I actually almost made a comment about that. I'm like, really, Misty? Like, okay, they'll dye your hair purple. You can then dye it another color. Purple hair is actually pretty cool looking, in my opinion.
Especially in the 90s.
Yeah, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, that was a very, like, loose threat. So I didn't understand why she was freaking out so bad. This makes that make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, and also, I thought that noon seemed like a really generous deal. I didn't think they were that far out of town.
No, they did not appear to be that far out of town. Like, I can't imagine that it would take, like, almost an entire day to walk to this town and come back.
Yeah, it was pretty bright, so it was like only midday as it was. He had almost 24 hours.
Well, maybe since we have to assume the Squirtle actually wanted to execute Misty, he was giving him a whole bunch of time so that he didn't have to actually pull the trigger on that.
That could be.
We then see Ash running down the trail as hard as he can, but in typical Ash fashion, he trips on the ground, but fortunately hops up quickly. He arrives at a rope bridge, so we all know how this is gonna go. The board breaks and his foot falls through. The bridge then begins to sway. He recovers, but falls through again, catching himself yet again, but instead this time the entire bridge collapses into the river below.
So what is with this area in the rickety bridges?
I have no idea. I mean, there's a lot of rickety bridges and none of them are well maintained.
They're not like the bridges of Madison County.
No.
That was an Iowa reference for anyone who got that. Did you
Yeah.
get that, Tyler?
I kind of got it. I'm from like a completely different part of Iowa than that, though.
Me
so.
too, but I at least know that's one of the things, like, if you grow up Iowa and, hey, this book was written about our state. But going on, their Department of Transportation really needs to fix this. Like, this is just not safe.
A lot of the roads are in really terrible shape. Very few of them are paved. We do know that they have, like, automobiles because we've seen motorcycles and things like that. So, but I've not seen many paved roads, and I've seen a lot of rickety rope bridges. They definitely do need to get on that. After Ash falls into the ravine below in the river, we see him wounded, hobbling into town with a walking stick. And this town looks like your like stereotypical like Wild West town. Like it's got the main drag through, it's very dusty. They've even got like the Western theme music. I'm kind of noticing a Western theme in this episode with the lassos and the occasional like Western music and now this Western town, but they really don't go very far with it. It's like they just scratched the surface of trying to turn this into a Clint Eastwood movie. Ash tries to walk into the shop that he sees to get the super potion, and someone swings the door open, hitting him in the face.
So the someone was actually Gary for a quick cameo, I guess. Did you notice that?
I was actually going to ask about that because it's been a while since we've seen what Gary looked like, and I thought to myself, that's got to be Gary. So that's interesting. After this occurs, we flash back to the cave where Brock and Misty are telling Pikachu to hang on because Ash will be back soon. Meowth thinks to himself in a worried tone, where are Jessie and James already? So Meowth is getting a little worried, like they're supposed to be coming to like bail him out, but they have not shown up yet. We flash back to town where Ash is still knocked out. Jessie and James walk into the shop that he was attempting to enter and appear to be robbing the place with a bazooka. So James like pulls out a bazooka and they're like, give us all your stuff. They say that they need these supplies to capture the Squirtle squad.
So I have a couple of things here. One, Jessie says that they are like comic book heroes but look better. In the Latin American dub, she actually says they're like comic book heroes but much more sexy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then James is obviously holding a real gun here. I mean, it looks like some sort of machine gun. I don't know anything about guns, so correct me if I'm wrong. But we will eventually get an episode that was banned due to the use of real guns, and I just don't understand the weird edits and changes they make in the dub. It's like they have no rhyme or reason for some of these.
You know, I'll have to go back and rewatch it, but I thought he was holding a bazooka.
No, Jesse was holding a bazooka, but he had, I don't know, he was holding like this machine gun type thing.
James, you mean?
Yeah, James was Jesse had the bazooka, and then James was holding the machine gun.
Oh, I completely missed that when I watched it. Interesting.
Or it might not have been a machine gun. As I said, I don't know much about guns, but it was like maybe an automatic rifle or something.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and check that out because I'm curious. I just saw the bazooka and wrote that down.
Yeah.
I might have missed it.
Like something you would see in a Call of Duty game.
Right. They grab so after they bust through the door and they point literal weapons at these people, they grab their stuff and leave in a Meowth-shaped hot air balloon. Ash hears their plan and knows that they are behind what is happening with the Squirtle squad. So he hears it and he acts like this is like a revelation. He's like, oh my gosh, it's them. They're responsible for all of this. However, I'm pretty sure he should already know this considering Meowth was there. I did not understand that revelation moment that he had.
I mean, Ash is just a little slow to the uptake. We know that.
This is very true, but he was literally like, oh my gosh, it's them. They're responsible for this. Well, no, duh, Ash. Meowth was there. Why would Meowth be there without Jessie and James being involved somehow? Ash goes to run, so he's gonna chase after this hot air balloon because he hears that they're going back to get Pikachu. but then remembers that he needs the super potion, so he walks back into the shop where everybody starts pointing guns at him, like real-world guns. These are not super soakers. These are not like, cartoon-esque type guns. These are like, I'm pretty sure I saw a bolt-action rifle and a pump shotgun. Like, there were several different variations of actual firearms, and they're just pointing them at Ash as he walks into the store. And I wonder, is this the first time that we've seen an actual gun in Pokemon? What is with everyone always pointing weapons at Ash and him being seemingly unfazed? Like, if I walked into a store and everybody started pointing actual guns at me, I'd be like, this is a little concerning. Like, that could be a traumatizing experience that could, carry with you. But he's, like, completely unfazed.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, I'm just here to get this.
Yep, I'm just here to get the potion, guys. You can put your guns away. Like, no, you should be a little bit more unnerved with the situation, Ash. It was kind of the same way he reacted when that kid put a katana in his face, too. Maybe it's just one of those things that he needs to get hurt with a weapon to understand that they're dangerous.
Maybe his mom just beat him so much he's unfazed from violence.
Well, we know that didn't happen because Ash's mother seemed to be very, non-existent in terms of disciplining Ash, because look at the way he turned out.
True.
Fortunately for Ash, though, Officer Jenny runs in and explains that he is not with Team Rocket. We then see Officer Jenny speeding down the road on her motorcycle with Ash riding on the back. He exclaims that he must get there by noon. Just then, we come up on a broken bridge, and they turn to go the other way.
Yeah, and it was probably a good thing the bridge already broke. I mean, there was no way that motorcycle would have survived being driven across it.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would have actually crashed a lot faster and harder.
Yeah, and Jenny would have tried, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Wouldn't have thought twice about it. We see Team Rocket floating over in their hot air balloon, preparing some sort of bombs. Like they're like those classic black bombs. The name escapes me, but the ones with the wicks on top and they're round and black, and then you light the fuse and then they blow up, kind of thing, almost like an early grenade. We then so we see Team Rocket floating in their hot air balloon, preparing these. They're making them with the supplies that they stole from the store. We then flash back to Ash and Officer Jenny. Jenny is showing Ash a secret entrance to the cave, but only Ash can fit through the hole, so he heads in. He lets out Charmander to provide light. Ash finally gets in the cave and sees everyone gone. He heads outside where he sees Misty and Brock standing with Meowth and the Squirtle squad and holding Pikachu. Misty begins to apply the super potion. Ash comments that her hair isn't purple, and she explains that the Squirtle squad was bluffing because they would never change a girl's natural hair color. The Squirtle squad nods in agreement. I gotta wonder, now that I know the dub, what did she actually, what did she say there? They just decided not to kill me.
Yeah, so I guess maybe Ash is just like, oh, you're alive, and she goes, yeah, they were bluffing, they would never kill someone.
Maybe. Although, I don't know about that. These guys seem kind of rougher than the anime is letting on. Just then, an explosion occurs, and we see Team Rocket dropping bombs from their hot air balloon. They yell for Meowth to carry Pikachu up the ladder as they drop it from the balloon. James says that the rest of them are in for a real blast. Haha, get it? They're in for a real blast because they're dropping bombs. There are explosions as Ash and his crew and the Squirtle squad run for cover in the cave. Just then, the lead Squirtle falls, and Team Rocket goes to drop bombs right on top of him. But Ash jumps on top of him and covers him with the explosion. Ash tells Squirtle to save himself, but Squirtle picks up Ash and runs with him into the cave, just in time.
So Ash is really starting to redeem himself this episode, almost, not quite, but enough to get himself off of the wall of shame.
He did almost sacrifice his life to save that Squirtle. I call that pretty redeemable. I'll agree. He's not quite there yet. He's still on the wall of shame, but he's improved. Team Rocket begins to float away, explaining that they now have Pikachu and that they will also be heroes for getting rid of the Squirtle squad. But their plan is foiled when Ash and Squirtle show up on a hill in front of them. And Team Rocket's like, what? How did you get there? And I kind of wonder the same thing, but considering, everything that happens in this show every episode, this is not the weirdest thing, and it won't be the weirdest thing that has happened. Squirtle uses a water gun attack and shoots a hole through the balloon. Pikachu falls from the balloon as it begins to fly away, and Ash jumps in to catch him. Team Rocket flies off in their balloon and are now gone. Their plan has been foiled. The problems aren't over, however, as the entire forest around the cave that they were in is now on fire. They're all worried that this will burn the town down. Ash asks the Squirtle Squad to help, and they begin to blast water on the fire and put it out. So the Squirtle Squad bands together and they start shooting their water cannons onto this big forest fire, and they put it out. The town is saved, and the Squirtle Squad is awarded by being made the town firefighters. And they do this award sequence where they give them their little special jackets and dub them the firefighters of the town. And then they do this weird, really Japanese thing where they are huh! And they all do this pose with the rising sun flag behind them. It's kind of an odd scene, but I guess it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and something this made me think of if this is the equivalent of when small towns make an animal the mayor or something like that. Have you heard of that before, Tyler?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So, it made me curious, so I did a little research, and I found a great one, and it was the town of Lajitas, Texas, elected a goat as their mayor. His name was Clay Henry III, and he was known as the beer-drinking goat.
I just want to point out that I would rather have a beer-drinking goat be my mayor than the mayor I had in my hometown growing up.
And Clay Henry III is no longer with us, but I guess he's in their historical museum. You know, they got him stuffed and everything, and he has a bottle of beer in his mouth.
That is beautiful. That's a beautiful story, Jeff. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
You've contributed to the show yet again.
Yes, I love doing this weird research.
That is definitely a weird one. Clay Henry III, you will live on in all of our hearts. Ash and the party then leave town after the ceremony is over, and as they are headed down the road, they see that the lead Squirtle, the one with the I yell at my wife in public sunglasses, is following them. Ash asks if he wants to come with them, and he takes off his shades, begins smiling, and agrees to join. Ash gets very excited, and they start to hug it out. They're very happy with this, and to be continued comes across the screen.
Yeah, and this was another very enjoyable episode. It was a fun one, and now Ash has the 3 Kanto starters. He has his Bulbasaur, his Charmander, and his Squirtle. And I like how he got each of them in. Not like the typical, I'm just going to catch you, because we all know Ash can't do that.
No, he's completely incapable of doing that.
But yeah, we're continuing the trend of great episodes going forward. What did you think, Tyler?
This is a fantastic episode. The last 3 have all been really good. This one was it's between this and the Charmander one for my favorites so far.
Yeah, I always have a soft spot for the Charmander episode, but if you want to tell us what you thought of the episode, please tweet us at Pokemon Snapshot, send us an email at thepokemonsnapshot.com or at gmail.com. We don't have a website yet. But we do have a Facebook page that just started today as of this recording. So by the time this is uploaded for you to listen to it, you can go search for the Pokemon Snapshot on Facebook and like our page where we will share when there's new episodes. I mean, Tyler and I will probably share funny Pokemon memes when we come across them just to get a community going. But yeah, so join us next week and we will be watching episode 13, The Mystery at the Lighthouse.
I'm very excited for this. I wonder if they'll finally get to Vermilion City.
No.